I'm in the perfect place. Anyways, we'll go ahead and get this started. So, welcome to Weekly Reset. Thank you so much for being here and supporting us. This is a podcast primarily for gaming discussion. Normally, I'd be bringing in guests that I would like to showcase, but today we do not have a guest because it is our last podcast for the year. We'll come back beginning after the holidays and whatnot. Yes, I would say I think it's January 5th is when we'll be coming back. I'd like to briefly introduce you to my co-host. We have Cease over here, and we also have Score, aka A Scorch, and aka actually _C. So we'll go ahead and give some shout outs for that in the stream so you guys can get over and hopefully follow them as well. Cease does have a YouTube channel as well, and we'll go ahead and shout that out as well. So, without further ado, I am actually going to hand the mic over to Cease. He's going to tell us about what's been going on in SWTOR this past 2 weeks.
Wait, what?
Wait, what?
What's been happening?
What's been happening? What have you found? What has been going on?
That's not how this works. We're not what do you call it? A recap? Come on. But what I do want to talk about is quite a few things that are still negatively impacting the game, whether it's balance or just fundamentally game mechanics. First one I would get into is Ghost GCDs are still a thing, and they seem to only happen when lightning storks are in the game. Specifically Chain Lightning. Chain Lightning causes a weird kind of desync in the game, and sometimes it'll lock you out of a GCD. And it doesn't seem to be exclusive to that class, but for the most part it usually seems when there's a lightning stork in the game causing a lot of desync, some GCDs just get locked up. So what I mean by that is that when you try to use an ability, the animation will go, but your ability doesn't go off, and there's no cooldown for it. So you just get locked out of it. GCD, you can't reuse it. You have to wait for the global cooldown to be over, and then you can use it. And sometimes it might happen twice in a row. So, you spent 3 seconds there trying to use the same ability when you could have used it twice already. It's very impactful, especially in PvP. That's where you usually see it at the moment. It's, as I said, not specific to lightning. I'm pretty sure some other classes are also causing it, and I'm not sure exactly what the pinpoint is. I think it might be maybe an interaction with tacticals or something, because I've noticed it's also happening to Vengeful Slam. And there is a tactical that lowers the cooldown of Vengeful Slam, which is a pretty good tactical, but at the same time, maybe it's buggy, I don't know. There seems to be a lot of issues with that, and missing a GCD is just an awful experience overall. But another thing for Juggernaut is Warmonger. While they did fix the cooldown reduction, it doesn't work properly. So let's say you're getting attacked while you have already leapt, and that'll reduce the cooldown of your leap, right? Well, it does do that. However, when it would fully cycle, it'll get to 100% basically, and it'll show that it's like, oh, you should be able to use it now, but it says 0 stacks. So you do a whole charge, 100% charge, and you still have 0. And then you have to wait the extra seconds for what it initially would have costed. Or not costed, but time wasted for it. So no matter what, it's always 14 seconds or whatever your leap cooldown is. You can't get any CDR that actually works for it, and while that's not a huge thing for most classes, it's really buggy because Warrior really needs their leap all the time. And also with Force Push, it is also really buggy. Most of the time it does reset it, but sometimes it doesn't still. You would think they would fix that, but still an issue. It's probably the main reason I'm not playing Warrior at the moment. For Marauder, this is not as big of a deal, for sure. Another thing would be, obviously, slow still affecting movement abilities. This is more apparent with Chain Lightning being just spread everywhere, and just the more amount of slows that have been put into the game, or reinforcing most of the slows that already existed because you can use them more now. For example, obviously chain lightning is the number one for that. So when you try to leap and you're slowed, sometimes you'll fall short or you'll fall through the map, depending on the situation. I still don't feel like slows should really affect movement abilities. It's kind of defeats the purpose if you ask me. One could probably argue and be like, oh well, a slow kind of logically makes sense, but at the same time, it's like you have access to the force. I'm pretty sure that conquers any slow that somebody's using on you. Granted, not everybody has it. Like PT leap almost never works, but I guess the jetpack just is terrible. I don't know.
Dude, something got stuck in the jetpack and they can't use it anymore, so they gotta replace
They
it.
They don't have any more gas. I guess.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know.
They're out of
They're out of
fuel.
gas.
Let me just put some slurp juice in my backpack to refuel it.
But going into that, like PT, there is tactical restrictions that are still not working. I don't know if they're actually going to do anything about this. It's been a while now. We've had 2 patches. One was the nerf right price. The other one was to buff Pyro and buff Meteor Brawler, which, in my opinion, I don't feel like Pyro needed a buff or a nerf. But Meteor Brawler definitely needed a nerf before they even buffed it. And they nerfed right price. That doesn't make any sense to me, but that's the only balance changes that we've got that are reasonable. But tactical restrictions are still not a thing, so that means tank PT can still use the 100% critical fuel, which is pretty strong. So can AP. Also, the tactical that I'm talking about is called superheated fuel. It is different for Republic, so if you put it on tactics, you're getting all yellow damage increased by 100%, which means tactics burst right now is insane. You do so much more damage than AP, and it's not meant to be like that. I don't know why it's different for cross faction. It literally makes tactics better than AP, even though they're the exact same thing. As far as I know, this is probably one of the first times it's ever been like that. And they still haven't fixed it. I don't know what to say about it. I just hope that they fix tactical restrictions and then look at Meteor Brawler and say, oh, this is a yellow AoE, maybe we shouldn't have this in the game. Maybe we should have nerfed it instead of buffing it. Because currently, let's say, let's say you're playing a tank and you're guarding somebody, and somebody is playing Pyro and they have Meteor Brawler and they have the 100% crit fuel. That means they're going to super crit that Meteor Brawler explosion, which you're going to be looking at 100k for each player. If you're guarding somebody, you take 50% of that damage that they would have taken. And let's say neither of them have AoE DR. Tanks usually don't have access to AoE DR, DPS do, but they have to take a utility for it. Most people don't take those utilities. So you're looking at taking 150k probably in just a split second. And it's not GCD locked either. It just happens on top of GCD. So let's say you've already got dots on them and you're flame sleeping and it goes off at the same time. So you might be looking at maybe 180k damage and 1 GCD. That's a lot of damage to lose as a tank. Especially instantly. It causes a lot of kind of weird issues. Like, of course, there's some ways to outplay it, but the thing is, it just shouldn't exist. It's a really silly mechanic. It's just silly. Like, there should be something better than that. It shouldn't be an added damage boost or whatever to the game. It's definitely unnecessary. But moving forward, also, they've made some changes to solos. I'm sure a lot of people have seen it. You need to play like 200 wins to qualify for top 3, right? So that's roughly about 400 games or less if you're lucky. That's a lot of games to play, but I would say for top 3, I think that's probably reasonable. It's 100 games, so you're looking at about 200 games if you're lucky to get gold. That's just a lot of games in general, especially if you're playing alts. I hope to see, maybe the season to be active the whole